Hello, Booktube. Well, drama continues to broil under the bookish surface of Booktube. And you gotta know I love that. It started with Mercy's Bookish Musings, who made a video that by now I'm sure you've all seen, asking if she's falling out of love with reading. And talking in that video about two things. One, that as she becomes a more critical reader, her the instances where she is rhapsodically in love with a book have lessened. There have been fewer and fewer of them. And she's not sure if that's being a critical reader or just having the mother of all bad luck in terms of the books that she picks to read. That was the first thing. And the second thing was less vocalized, but still very present in the video, which was an anxiety over what to do with your reading when you're done with it. Specifically, I thought, on Goodreads. You know, how do you rate it? How do other people rate it? Where is it listed? What prominence is it given? How do you review it? That sort of thing. And I made a response to that video where I tried to shift the blame squarely onto Goodreads. Now, I did that for two reasons. One, I have always been a little bit irritated by the cookie-cutter nature of Goodreads, trying to impose a stricter criteria on the activity of reading, which is the most varied and personal thing that any of us do, has always struck me as a little weird, where people are debating, well, they don't let me give it this kind of a rating, I have to give it this kind of a rating, and I'm not sure that fits with my reaction to it, and people agonizing over that. That's always bugged me. That was reason number two, reason number one. Reason number two was I wanted to shift the blame away from critical reading, because I do nothing but critical reading. It's not only my passion but my job, and I firmly believe that it enhances your reading life. Period. Full stop. It enhances your reading life. And I thought, well, it's got the conversation going. That's great. And then today there were two more blockbusters to add to the drama. Tall Tales and Insert Literary Pun here both did videos on essentially falling out of love with reading fatigue. Tall Tales call it. Both wonderful videos, fantastically eloquent. I loved it, but they shifted the emphasis back to critical reading and away from Goodreads, where I wanted to put it, suggesting in both cases that the more you become a critical reader, the more aware you are of, as Jennifer in Insert Literary Pun put it, in a hilarious moment in her video, where you're reading along and thinking, oh, you're not going to do that thing. Oh, you did that thing. Which is, of course, if you're a critical reader, that is, of course, going to be a part of it. That's going to be a part of the experience, is that you're going to go into a book and think, okay, well, now that I'm looking at these things with a bit of a squint, I'm noticing that this entire plot apparatus has occurred many, many times. I have read it many, many times. And also, the number of ways writers do it seems fairly limited. So you encounter the beginnings of that edifice in a new book, and you think, okay, this is extremely familiar ground. I wonder if you're going to do this in just the same way that a writer 2 books ago did it. That's natural for critical reading, of course, for attentive reading of any kind. But I still want to stick by critical reading and say that isn't the fault of the method of reading. It's the fault of the books. Most books, to quote from a science fiction, I'll paraphrase a science fiction titan who's oft quoted and who's entirely right, that most books, 90% of all books, are crud. But then again, 90% of everything is crud. That's the whole point. Is that the blame, if you're finding that the books you're reading are grinding you down with cliches and tired devices and whatnot, the blame lies on the books, not on critical reading. I firmly believe that in the Booktube community, I read as much as anybody. I'd be willing to bet I read more books in a year than anybody on Booktube. And I don't think on this channel you've noticed any lack of childish excitement. It's just, it forces you to cast your net wider and to read more. That's all there is to it. If you're narrowing your reading choices, then you're stuck with what you get. So I'm not going to use it as an open door to advocate for reading nonfiction, although I could, because nonfiction is so much better, and it doesn't happen in nonfiction. In nonfiction, the subject bears the brunt of the interest, and less the execution. So you're not at the mercy of someone coming up with a new way to write about upper middle class Connecticut divorce. You're not so much at the mercy of the execution if the subject is of huge amount of interest, right? I won't stress it, but I don't really need someone writing about the military campaigns of General Burgoyne to have the literary chops of Alberto Moravia. I don't really need that, provided they've done a lot of research and maybe have thought about it, walked the ground, maybe found some a new way to look at some old information. That's going to do it. That's going to carry you right through the book. And if you get crystal clear writing on top of that, it's a huge bonus, and I love that. But it's not necessarily bearing the whole weight, whereas in a novel, so much depends on execution that if you're not in the presence of someone who's genuinely talented, you're going to notice when they start to slip or substitute canned meat or simply be incompetent, simply bite off more than they can chew. One way or another, it looks like Booktube is in the middle of an epidemic of reader lack of confidence. And I have a solution. I have a suggestion that I want to make for 2018 to try and pump some enthusiasm back up into this whole thing. And that is a massive read-along. The biggest Booktube read-along that's ever been attempted. Done on the Voxer that the kids like so much. I downloaded it onto my phone and tried it a couple of times with 1 or 2 read-alongs, and I really liked it. I didn't do it very well, but I really liked it. I feel I could get better at it. And all the rest of you do it all the time without me. I think that what we should do is that hundreds of us, all of the cool kids, and by that I mean anyone watching this video, should pick a book for the beginning of 2018. I'm not really free to do anything until then, but then I am. We ought to do the biggest read-along in Booktube history. I think that would revive a huge amount of enthusiasm, and maybe we could pick a pre-20th century classic, maybe something ambitious, so that in addition to the community, there would also be the sense of accomplishment. I have all sorts of suggestions. I don't, even if we stick to fiction, I have all sorts of suggestions that I think would go wonderfully. My first one might be Tale of Genji. But we could decide. We have plenty of time to decide, and I think we should. So I want to put that forward as a suggestion to all you fatigued readers, that maybe one of the cures for it would be, let's do a read-along, a huge read-along. But anyway, I just thought I'd weigh in one more time. I'm dreading now to see which new videos are going to crop up. How many readers, how many booktubers are going to make videos saying, yeah, reading's just not doing it for me. My God. Anyway, I'd love to hear more of what you think, and I'll remember, I'll leave links to the videos, all the videos down below, because this is now becoming a conversation, and that's fascinating. A little disarming, alarming for me, but still fascinating. But anyway, I'll wrap this up for now, and I'll see you soon. Thank you, Booktube.